When you think about a big Australian road trip, it's all about that wide open space, isn't it? Freedom.
Absolutely. That sense of just vastness,
Hey.
escape.
But that exact same isolation, the thing you go looking for, well, sometimes it can turn into something else entirely, a trap.
Mm-hmm. It's a chilling thought.
And that's really the core of the story we're exploring today, the true story of Peter Falconio and Joanne Lees.
Yeah, a young British couple, their dream adventure back in 2001 on the Stuart Highway.
An adventure that it went horribly wrong and exposed this really brutal, hidden danger you can find in the outback.
They seem like such a great match for that kind of trip, too. Peter, he was born in 72, studying engineering.
Right. And Joanne, born 73, she'd worked in travel, so she had that bug already.
Definitely. Met in a nightclub, apparently, and just clicked over wanting to see the world. They saved up hard for it.
Their big gap year started off in 2000, heading through Asia, Nepal, Singapore, Thailand. Quite the journey already.
But Australia was always the main goal, the big leg of the trip.
Yeah. They got to Sydney in January 2001. Spent about 5 months there working, saving, getting ready for the real cross-continent drive.
Which is when they bought the van, the one that kind of became infamous in this story.
That orange Volkswagen Combi, 30 years old.
Yeah, cost them, what, $1,800 Australian? Had about 136,000 kilometers on it. Charming, definitely, but maybe.
Maybe a bit fragile for where they were headed.
Exactly. Especially into the Northern Territory.
And we really need to paint a picture of the scale here for you. The Northern Territory is huge, like 1.3 million square kilometers.
But hardly anyone living there. Only about 250,000 people in that whole area.
And the Stuart Highway itself, that's over 2,800 kilometers long. We're talking serious isolation, not just out in the country.
It's the kind of place where, your biggest worry should be the car breaking down or maybe hitting a kangaroo at night or those massive road trains.
Yeah, those trucks are enormous.
But the emptiness,
Yeah.
the sheer distance between anything, that's what created the perfect hunting ground, really.
And it's chilling because their parents were apparently really worried. Not just general parental concern, but specific stuff.
Well, yeah, there'd been news stories in the 90s, hadn't there? About tourists being targeted by killers in Australia.
And then, just before Peter and Joanne left, that horrific arson attack in Queensland. 15 tourists killed, 7 of them British.
So the idea that Australia wasn't entirely safe for backpackers, it was. It was already out there.
Still, they set off. Drove the Stuart Highway south for Canberra, Melbourne, then up to Alice Springs, visited Uluru, Ayers Rock.
Right, the classic route. They even met another couple there, Canadians, traveled with them for a bit.
So, it felt normal. It felt like the adventure they'd planned.
But that specific stretch of road,
Yeah.
it already had a shadow over it. Something had happened just before they got there.
Yeah, this is properly scary. Another group, also British tourists, 3 of them. 2 women driving, a guy asleep in the back.
Same highway. And this car starts tailgating them really aggressively.
Then it pulls up alongside, and the driver is just making these horrible, scary faces at them.
Terrifying. So the women pull over.
Right.
And this guy, he doesn't drive off. He pulls over further up the road, gets out, and just leans on his car, smoking, waiting.
Calculated. It feels really calculated.
Totally. So eventually the women decide to just drive past him.
Yeah.
And what happens?
He gets back in his car, chases them down again, pulls alongside again, rolls down the window.
And this time, he makes a gun shape with his hand.
Yeah.
Points it at his own head. A direct threat.
Jeez, it only stopped because the guy who'd been asleep in the back woke up, saw what was happening, and basically confronted the driver.
Yeah, that seemed to spook him. He took off then. They reported it, of course.
But out there, he just vanished. The police couldn't find him.
Which means, when Peter and Joanne were driving that same road, just weeks later, that predator was potentially still active. Still out there.
And that brings us to the day itself, July 14th, 2001.
They'd been in Alice Springs for the Camel Cup, that famous race. Peter got the van checked over, sorted out some tax stuff. Joanne called a friend, Amanda.
Yeah, talk about their next plans, right? Head north to Darwin, maybe New Guinea, New Zealand later on. Still looking forward.
Definitely. They left Alice Springs around 3 p.m. that afternoon, aiming for Devil's Marbles, which is like a 6-hour drive.
Stopped off around 6 p.m. at a place called the TT Roadhouse. Buy some supplies. Peter took over, driving from there.
Seemed like just another leg of the journey.
Until about 7:30 p.m. Pitch black by then. Driving along that empty highway, and headlights appear behind them.
At first, maybe a bit of relief seeing another car out there.
Yeah, maybe briefly. But then the car speeds right up, tailgates them, really close, high beams blazing in their mirrors.
Properly aggressive, intimidating, and then it pulls alongside them.
It's a Ute, a pickup truck with a canvas cover on the back. And the driver. This man, middle-aged, kind of scary looking.
He rolls down his window and starts gesturing, pointing frantically towards the back of their combi van.
Yeah. Making out like something's wrong back there.
It's clever, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exploiting that vulnerability. An old van in the middle of nowhere. The fear of a breakdown, or worse, a fire.
Exactly. Peter totally bought it. Thought maybe sparks were coming from the exhaust, which is a disaster waiting to happen in that heat. So he pulls over straight away.
And the other vehicle stops too. The man gets out, walks over to Peter, tells him he saw sparks, problems with the exhaust pipe.
The perfect distraction. Joanne stayed in the van. Peter gets out to check the back, maybe has a smoke while he's looking.
While this stranger is standing right there with him, seemingly helping.
Think about how well that works psychologically. Miles from anywhere, someone seems to be offering help. You'd probably trust them, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Lower your guard for just a moment.
And then Joanne hears it. A loud bang.
She said later she thought, oh, maybe that was the exhaust finally going.
Right, but she looks back. Peter's not there. The stranger's not there. And then suddenly...
He's at her window, the driver's side, and he's got a gun pointed right at her head.
Terrifying. He orders her out, ties her hands behind her back really tightly with these homemade restraints. Cable ties, basically.
Which later turned out to be absolutely crucial evidence.
He forces her towards his Ute, pushes her into the back, under the canvas cover. She even noticed his dog was in there.
But even in that terror, she got a good look at him.
Yeah, she described him pretty clearly. Mid-40s, tall, longish face, deep-set eyes, shoulder-length hair, a mustache, wearing jeans and a black baseball cap.
Distinctive features.
She screamed for Peter, but the attacker he shoved a bag or something over her head, told her to shut up or he'd shoot her.
And then she heard a sound.
Yeah.
Like something heavy being dragged past the van where she was tied up.
Oh God, she managed to asked if he'd killed Peter.
And he just said, no. Just flatly, no. Probably to keep her calm, keep her compliant, chilling.
But then while the attacker was busy, maybe moving Peter's body, maybe trying to hide the van or destroy evidence, Joanne did something incredible.
Yeah, she somehow managed to wriggle her hands free from those restraints, got out from under the canvas back of the Ute.
And just ran. Bolted straight into the dense scrub, the bushes beside the road, vanished into the darkness.
The attacker must have realized pretty quickly she was gone. He started hunting for her.
First with a flashlight, and he had his dog with him too, trying to track her.
When that didn't work, he got back in his Ute and started using the headlights. Driving slowly back and forth along the road verge, sweeping the beams into the bushes, trying to catch any movement.
Can you imagine hiding out there, absolutely terrified, hearing the engine, seeing the lights sweep past?
And it was cold too. Dropped to about 11 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
She just stayed frozen, didn't dare move.
For 5 hours. 5 agonizing hours, hidden in the dark, praying he wouldn't come back.
Eventually, he must have given up. Drove off. But she waited. Made sure he was truly gone.
Then, finally, around 12:30 a.m., 5 hours after escaping, she saw lights, headlights in the distance. But these were different, high up.
A road train. One of those huge Outback trucks.
She just ran straight out onto the highway, waving her arms, flagging it down.
The driver, Vince Miller, and his co-driver, they stopped for her, cut off the remains of the restraints.
They actually spent the next hour searching the immediate area for Peter with their truck lights. But nothing.
No sign of him. So at 1:30 a.m., they drove her to the nearest place with people, the Barrow Creek Roadhouse.
Tiny little place. The owners there, Glenn and Helen Leslie, they called the police immediately.
But here's where that isolation really bites you in terms of the investigation.
Right. The police station was hours away. They couldn't just drive around the corner.
It took them over 3 hours to get to Barrow Creek. They arrived about 4:30 a.m. Joanne gave them that detailed description of the attacker, the Ute, everything she could remember.
But the crucial delay, the roadblocks, they weren't set up until 8:30 in the morning.
12, maybe 13 hours after the attack. I mean, whoever did this could be hundreds of kilometers away, long gone.
When the police finally got to the actual roadside scene around 7 a.m., they found Peter's blood. Confirmation, if any was needed, of a violent attack.
They found the orange combi van too, driven about 80 meters off the road into the scrub, probably in an attempt to hide it.
But Peter, his body was just gone. Vanished.
They did gather vital evidence though. Right there at the scene. Foreign DNA, fingerprints on the gear stick of the combi and on those homemade restraints they'd cut off Joanne.
But the news spread like wildfire. And because there was no body, and maybe because the story sounded so extreme.
The media, some parts of it, started questioning Joanne's story, implying maybe she was involved somehow.
Awful. She was traumatized, she'd just escaped being murdered, and then she had to face suspicion. She even held a press conference to try and set the record straight.
Yeah, immense pressure on her. The investigation itself seemed to stall for a while after that initial flurry.
Until a new detective took over the case, Colleen Gwynn.
And she seemed to have a fresh perspective. She actually flew all the way to the UK to re-interview Joanne. She recognized the quality of Joanne's recall, how consistent and detailed her account was. She believed her, and that seemed to re-energize things.
So what was the next step? How do you find someone in the outback?
You look at the few points of contact, roads, service stations, CCTV becomes critical.
Okay.
And they found something, footage from a service station back in Alice Springs, taken between 12:30 a.m. and 12:50 a.m. that same night.
So just hours after the attack.
Exactly. And the footage, though it wasn't crystal clear, showed a man buying fuel, ice, some cold coffee. And his physical description generally matched Joanne's description of the attacker.
And the vehicle.
A Toyota Land Cruiser Ute, a 75 series, with a distinctive green canvas canopy on the back, just like Joanne described.
Okay, that's huge. So they looked for owners of that specific type of vehicle.
Yep. They narrowed it down to 36 owners in the relevant area. And one name on that list was Bradley John Murdoch.
But they didn't immediately zero in on him.
No, this is a weird twist. They initially discounted him. Because the Bradley Murdoch the police knew at the time had a shaved head and no mustache.
Completely the opposite of Joanne's description. Long hair, mustache.
Exactly. He changed his appearance. It looked like a dead end.
So how did they connect him? What broke the case open?
It came from a totally different angle. Drugs. In May 2002, so almost a year later, a guy called James Heppy gets arrested for drug trafficking.
Okay.
Turns out Heppy knew Murdoch, was maybe an associate, and Heppy tells the police something interesting.
What's that?
He says Murdoch had recently and quite suddenly shaved off all his hair and his mustache, right around the time of the Falconio incident.
Whoa.
Heppy also mentioned that Murdoch owned homemade handcuffs, similar to the cable tie restraints used on Joanne.
That's good. That's gotta be it. The police must have put it together then.
Absolutely. They realized Murdoch likely was the man Joanne described, but he deliberately changed his appearance right after the crime to throw off suspicion.
Clever, but not clever enough for forensics, hopefully.
Exactly. The DNA was the key.
Yeah.
They couldn't get Murdoch's directly at first, so they got a sample from his brother, Gary.
And did it match the crime scene DNA?
It showed a familial link, a clear match to the DNA they'd found on those restraints, traces on Joanne's t-shirt, and crucially, on the gear stick of Peter and Joanne's combi van.
Wow. So that tied it all together. One attacker, Joanne was telling the truth, and the attacker was related to Bradley Murdoch.
Which pretty much meant it was Bradley Murdoch, born 1958, had a history of juvenile offenses, even a vehicular manslaughter conviction back in 1980.
And he was known to drive that Stewart Highway route?
Regularly. He was involved in transporting drugs, cannabis mostly up and down that highway. It was his territory.
Seems progress.
August 2002. Though interestingly, they initially arrested him for a completely different sexual assault charge from years earlier.
Really?
Yeah, he was actually acquitted of that charge, but the police were waiting. As soon as he was cleared of that, they immediately re-arrested him for the murder of Peter Falconio and the attack on Joanne Lees.
And Joanne. Could she identify him from newer photos?
Yes. She confirmed it was him.
Did Murdoch confess? What was his motive?
No, he denied everything, pleaded not guilty to murder, kidnapping, assault, the lot. The main theory prosecutors put forward was about the drugs.
That he thought Peter and Joanne had seen something.
Yeah, maybe seen the cannabis in his ute when he first pulled alongside, or just that he panicked, feared they were suspicious and might report him, so he decided to silence them.
Yeah.
Permanently.
The trial must have been huge news.
Massive. And on December 13th, 2005, the verdict came in.
Guilty.
Guilty. Convicted of the murder of Peter Falconio and the assault and kidnapping of Joanne Lees. He got life imprisonment with a minimum non-parole period of 28 years.
Justice in a way, but
Yeah.
the biggest question remained.
Where is Peter Falconio? His body has never, ever been found.
Still missing after all these years. That's just heartbreaking.
There was one strange, disturbing postscript. In April 2017, an anonymous letter was sent to the police.
Saying what?
The writer claimed he helps Murdoch dispose of Peter's body. Claimed it had been dismembered, put into 2 separate bags.
Oh my God. Did they say where?
No. No location, nothing concrete, just more horror, really. It didn't lead anywhere.
So it's a story that ends with a conviction, but no closure? Not really.
Not in the truest sense. You have this young couple's dream trip turning into an absolute nightmare on that lonely highway. Joanne's incredible escape against the odds.
The long investigation, the clever forensics finally catching the killer.
But Peter remains missing. The killer used the vastness of the outback as a weapon, first to isolate his victims, and then, it seems, to hide his crime forever. The horror of that night never fully ends for Joanne, or for Peter's family.
It's a truly chilling reminder of the dangers that can hide in plain sight, even in places that seem beautiful and free.
Caution is always needed, especially when you're far from help.
If you found this deep dive into the root of death compelling, we'd really appreciate it if you could show your support. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Doc.
Your support helps us bring more of these important, often terrifying stories to light.
We will be back soon with another case, but as you go, maybe think about this. Even with a conviction, with the killer behind bars, can there ever be real peace when a victim remains lost somewhere out there on that vast, unforgiving highway?
Something to ponder.
Take care, everyone, and good night.